Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Right on Track. Joining me on the show today is a very special guest I'm so excited to chat with. Please welcome Jamie Floyd. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, good to be here.
Yeah, it's so good to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you asking me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We have lots to chat about. I could talk to you for hours with all the things you've done, but I picked a few specific things I'd like to cover. But before we get into that, I would love for you to share with the listeners a little about yourself and your incredible journey in music so far.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. Gosh, I moved to Nashville 23 years ago this August from South Florida. I'm originally from South Florida. I'm the daughter of two professional musicians, and I got my first record deal when I was 11 years old, a development deal with Epic Records out of New York. And I learned that I was a songwriter because of that process. I had never written songs before. I didn't know songwriting could be a profession. And in my very first co-write they put me in when I was 11 or 12, I got to write with two incredible songwriters here in Nashville named Greg Barnhill and Jim D'Addario, and writers of some of my favorite songs, and just incredible that that was my first co-write. But we came out after that first day and they told my mom, who was waiting in the hallway, she's a songwriter, like she's going to be able to do this for a living. And we both didn't quite know what they were talking about or what that meant, but it was pretty unbelievable to kind of discover that or be told that as a child. And then when I moved to Nashville when I was 17, turning 18, I went to Belmont out of the gate, and I was there for about a year and a half. And one of the first people I met was John Osborne from Brothers Osborne, and he was in my band, my lead guitar player, and we used to have bluegrass jams, which is how I learned how to play rhythm guitar from just watching those guys. Just some of the best musicians and the top guys we have in country music today. And I got my very first cut when I was 22. On Ronnie Dunn's debut solo album, and that kind of kicked everything off. All along, I've been an artist as well, and I kind of hoped that as things got going, all these doors opened for my songwriting, and I hoped that that would continue to open the doors for me as an artist, and that's kind of what happened. And then I kind of got pulled into genres and opportunities that I never saw coming as an artist or as a songwriter. I started writing for movies and TV shows, and I got to write whole soundtracks. And then, uh, gosh, almost 8 years ago now, I started writing for developing Broadway musicals, and I've just kind of gotten pulled into all different genres and with all kinds of different artists, and it's been a really wild ride. But I've just tried to walk through the open doors, um, and I've been releasing music as an artist the whole way through. And um, so just doing a little bit of both, writing for other people and writing for myself. And most recently, I just put out a new single with my friend Jake Hoot, who just was on the Voice All Stars, and he won on Kelly Clarkson's team again. He was the winner of season 17, and then he just had another victory on Kelly's team. And I met him when I wrote a song that he and Kelly Clarkson released. And most recently, he and I released a duet, and we got to debut it on the Grand Ole Opry with Vince Gill just about a month ago. So that was like my biggest dream of my career, to play the Opry. So I just got to check that one off a few weeks ago, and I've just been really grateful. But it's been a kind of crazy 23 years here in Nashville, and I feel like I'm just getting started.
Wild. Congrats on everything. Oh my goodness. So many things.
Thank you.
How in the world do you balance it all? Because you write for others, yourself, the TV and film, musicals. Like, there's so many things. And I'm sure you're working on several projects in different areas at once. So, what is your organization with all that? And how do you stay creative when you're bouncing from project to project like that?
Yeah, I find that in recent years I have gone really like pedal to the metal. I've worked probably around the clock way too much. And it just in the past couple years, I've really challenged myself to start saying no to things that are not for me, and saying yes to things that really make me happy and that bring out my superpowers and my creativity. And I feel like Nashville and the music business in general, um, I think has this unspoken rule that you should do everything all the time. Like if you get this opportunity, you should do it. And you should do it like this kind of culture of like you might miss out. So make sure you do everything, even if you spread yourself thin. And I definitely subscribe to that. And on one hand, I feel like um I've gotten some really amazing opportunities that I came through on, and then I think on the other hand, I got pulled into some projects and different things that just weren't for me, or the chemistry with the team wasn't for me, or whatever it was. But I just have this like uh, I don't know. I had it in my head that you've got to do everything, and so although I'm grateful for any opportunities that come my way, I've learned to be um, much more in tune with my intuition and being really intentional about who I choose to create with and what we're doing and if it really is bringing me joy. And so I've really in the past couple years I've challenged myself and I've come through on it, which is scary, but also I'm really proud of myself for kind of stepping away even from projects I've worked on for a long time that were really important to me and that were a big part of my growth. But I stepped away from some things that's been like some of the best decisions I've ever made in my career. And I'm only learning that because I had the courage to say, you know what, this is not for me anymore, but this over here is, and now I'm making space and clearing the path for what is absolutely meant for me. And so I will say that that I've certainly not been good at balancing over the years, but just most recently I think I've had kind of a reawakening and just a shift in how I approach what I'm doing. And I'm so lucky to do music full time now. Like for years I was waiting tables and I was working just like 80-hour weeks at one job and then trying to be creative in between. And that really shaped me and I'm very grateful for that time. But it's so precious to me that I have come to the place where I can tour and write music and do those things full time. So I want to be really intentional now with how I spend my time and who I spend my time with. And now that I've kind of said, okay, over here, this is not for me anymore, so many opportunities have come into play. And I'll say, lastly, the biggest lesson that I've learned even recently is um, like I said, in the past 6 months or so, I made some huge decisions and I took myself out of certain scenarios and projects. And then my greatest dream, which was to play the Grand Ole Opry, came true just a few months later. And I think that was kind of God's way of being like, okay, I hope you're paying attention that when you make hard decisions and you think, oh gosh, you second guess yourself, well, look what you made room for. You know, you made room for your biggest dream to come walking through the door by making some really hard but important decisions. And so that's a huge lesson that's like very big in my life right now.
Yeah, so inspiring. That's resonating so much with me. I'm a songwriter as well, but I'm mostly involved in the publishing industry. And I had a similar experience where I was represented by an agent and it just wasn't working out. And it was like the hardest decision to choose to leave. And then less than a year after I left her, I signed with my dream agent. So it's like the similar thing you're talking about. It's like crazy how I feel like whenever you're pursuing any kind of creative industry or passion, like you said, like you say yes, yes, yes all the time, and sometimes you don't fully think things through, and sometimes you feel like if I say no to this, I'm gonna miss my opportunity. I'll never get that again. But I definitely think that being strategic and aware and making the choices that progress your career and that feel right for you, that's so important. So I'm happy that you got to that place.
Yeah, I think it's important that we don't, or that we're aware when we go into a scarcity mindset. And I think with the particular project that I decided to leave, I just had the scarcity mindset like, oh, what else is going to come my way? And then like everything came my
Yeah.
way, because like making that decision, you really open up yourself to kind of your wildest dreams that you were honestly didn't have room for unless you made that hard decision to make the room. So I think that's a huge lesson. I love that.
Yeah, for sure. So you did briefly mention touring, which I would like to chat about. What is it like for you to perform your songs, whether they're small venues, big venues, and have that in-person live music connection with listeners?
Yeah, I think that is my favorite thing. It always has been. I love being on stage and connecting with an audience and singing and kind of going back into why I loved writing the songs that I get to perform. And I was a singer first before I was ever a songwriter. And so that's just like my first love. And so now to pair my two loves, which is songwriting and being an artist, when it all comes together on stage, there's just something so special about that. And getting to travel and connect with people who, may have been writing to me or just staying in contact with me over the years. Either they found me through one of their favorite artists and they realized that I had been writing those songs that they loved. And then they come to my show, which is really special. And so it's just been, it's my absolute favorite thing. And I, I'm kind of a one woman show in that way. I book everything myself, and I so it's really fulfilling to like, do the behind the scenes job of getting it all logistically set up, and it's just been really blowing me away the opportunities that I do have to go and perform. And so that's first of all very lucky to have a main source of income in that way, that my songwriting has kind of in this day and age when unfortunately to make your living off of being just a songwriter is more and more difficult. And I'm very involved in our lobbying in Washington on behalf of our community's rights. But I will say something that I didn't expect is that the fact that I've written these songs has opened the door for me to tour and share the stories behind those songs with everyone. And so um I guess in a way it's balanced out, that of what's going on the side of songwriters and making a living. On the other side, the fact that I can tour and that everyone's interested in hearing the songs live is really special, and it's something I don't take for granted. And I will say my favorite thing is playing with my live band. Like if I could tour, and that is a goal to be able to eventually. Gosh, I would love to do a tour of theaters and get to play the songs that I've written for everybody and tell the stories and everything, but have my band with me. That would be the next goal. But playing live is my first love, and so it's very special that I get to tour.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I absolutely love when you and like other artists share the stories behind the songs as you're doing the shows. I think that creates such a special connection with the audience. I actually saw you perform, like I think it was 2021 at the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. I was there, and you happened to be the artist who was singing there, which was super cool. But you definitely created that connection with the audience, and it's super special. Especially like if you have this song, especially that you wrote for someone who becomes super successful, or just a song of your own, and then you're talking about it. Those are things that listeners can't get just from listening to the song. Like you're really pulling back the curtain and sharing this is what inspired it and the story behind it. I think that's really incredible.
Oh, well, thank you. It's really fun to do that. The Country Music Hall of Fame really honors songwriters, and
Yeah.
they, like you said, they do that songwriter spotlight, and it's so fun to like tell people things they would have never known about, how the song came to be or just the backstory and what was really going on. And it's kind of fun to kind of bring people into the behind the scenes process of things. So I love doing those kinds of shows.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you did mention the struggle that songwriters have today, which is a perfect transition into another question I have for you about being part of the Last Songwriter documentary. So you can talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. So a few years back um when NSAI, our lobbying entity here in Nashville, was really a big part of introducing the MMA bill, which really changed the way our government uh, compensates songwriters and that structure. And it's very complex. But we were basically challenging um, pretty archaic laws and rules in place that were just not catching up with the times and how things are working now with the world of streaming and everything that's changed over decades and decades. And so Back in back when NSAI was really introducing the idea of that bill, I got to go to Washington several times, and in order to help educate our lawmakers and just everyone that was involved in um, what would need to happen should the laws change, we ended up making a documentary called The Last Songwriter to kind of let everyone know what was really going on. And I was very lucky to be alongside artists like Garth Brooks and Jason Isbell, and I mean, Hall of Fame, incredible songwriting royalty like Matraca Berg and Tom Douglas and Alan Shamblin and Tony Arata. And we came together to make this documentary. And my story at the time, I was still waiting tables, and I had a Grammy nomination at the same time. And they really showed how, you know, the perception would be that as a song I was a professional songwriter, with a Grammy nomination, that you would be at the top of your game, and that you would also be making 100% of your living from creating material that was getting that kind of recognition. And what we found was that was not the case, and a lot of that was due to the fact of how our laws are structured, and what it's doing to kind of exterminate the American songwriter and that career path. And so I was really happy to share my story in that documentary. And it's, by the way, you can watch it for free on lastsongwriter.com. And the documentary is there to watch. And I'm just really proud of what we did. It was a little scary to come out, and it still is to this day. It's intimidating to stand up to, the Goliaths of the industry that are really controlling things like Spotify and all the other entities that we certainly need to learn how to work together. So when we're um, challenging a lot of what is happening and what's already in place, it's a bit intimidating because you're certainly rocking the boat. But I feel like I've been given the story that I've been given, and the obstacles and the kind of unbelievable um, happy things that have happened along the way, that even if my career uh, isn't affected directly or immediately by the changes we make, it's very important to me to set up the future um, for songwriters, if I can help in any way, so that nobody has to go through what I went through. And so the path is just a little bit more open, and can allow songwriters to make a living and continue to impact culture with storytelling. I think that's really important. So that documentary is all about all of those things. And the good news is there's a happy ending. We did end up passing the MMA bill, which is really special. Of course, it was challenged and appealed and all the things, and it's a constant battle. But that was a really big win, and I feel like that documentary was a big part of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for sharing all of that. I think it's really disheartening when you look at the big picture because I'm sure there are so many talented songwriters who don't even take a chance because they can look at the system and be like, there's no way. I can't survive. I can't make it with the way it is, and having to, like you said, work other jobs to try to support that and then reach in a state of burnout and trying to survive and make the money and all that. Like I'm sure there's so many who don't even give it a shot, and that's sad.
Yeah, exactly. And we should just really be supporting. We should be it should still be a dream that you could chase, and at the very least survive on being successful at it. And right now the way things are structured, it really threatens that. And so I'm willing to use my voice and stand up and and be a loud voice in that fight. And again, it's intimidating because we're kind of standing up to the entities that hold the keys to our success. And but I'm willing to challenge them for the greater good of our community, and I think it's really important.
Yeah, it definitely is important. On a lighter note, let's talk about Christmas, even though it's May.
I love it.
I think it's super cool that you performed in New York City with your song Little Christmas Miracles.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, so many things have happened to me that I never saw myself doing, and one of those is a couple years ago there was an off-Broadway Christmas play called Little Christmas Miracles, and I was approached by the producer to write the theme song for the the play, and it would be performed in the play as well. And it did really well. It was right up there with the Rockettes and all the reviews and everything of what to go see in New York City during the holidays. And it was really cool on opening night. Um, I got to be there in person, and then they also brought me on stage to get to sing the theme song that I had written, and I also released it. So at the same time, so it was just really special. My little off Broadway debut, and that was the first song that I had that appeared in that way. Off Broadway, so it was really cool, and it's out there now, and it was just a really special moment and one I definitely did not expect to be a part of.
No, that's awesome. And speaking of Christmas, love Candy Cane Red. It's so good. It's like still one of my favorites. What inspired that
Aw.
song?
Thank you so much. Yeah, Candy Cane Red is a Christmas song I put out little over a year ago now, I guess. And it's a song. I had the title Candy Cane Red come to me, and I shared it with my husband. I was like, "Hey, I've got a Christmas song idea, Candy Cane Red." And he was like, "Oh my God, please write that with me." And so I wrote it with my husband, who's an incredible just hit songwriter, producer. He's actually Canadian, and he's been here in the States for the last 10 years, and he's written songs for Blake Shelton and Joe Nichols and all kinds of people. But so I really respect him, and we took that idea to another Canadian friend and producer of ours, named Graham Mullaney. And so the three of us sat down to write Candy Cane Red. Graham really loved the title as well, and he's such an incredible instrumentalist and guitar player, and he just started playing a really cool groove, and the three of us have a really great chemistry together. And once we finished it, I had decided to get it, recorded and release it, and it was just really fun. I love when elements of country and blues and rock can come together. That's just like three of my favorite ingredients, and I feel like all of those made their way into the song. And it's just fun to have a Christmas song that like is truly rockin'. And that's what that one is great to sing live too. So thanks for noticing. I know it's in May, but when Christmas comes around again, y'all can check out Candy Cane Red. Put it on a
It's
playlist.
so
It'll
good.
it'll get everybody up and moving around.
It's so good. It's such a good vibe. It's so good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you did mention earlier about your latest release that you got to perform at the Grand Ole Opry, which was super cool, The Blade, but this song has quite the story. So can you take us back to the beginning and talk about when you originally co-wrote this and how it evolved over time?
Yeah. So I co-wrote a song called The Blade with Alan Shamblin, a Hall of Fame incredible prolific songwriter, and another hit songwriter, an incredible friend of mine named Mark Beeson. So it was the very first co-write the three of us had ever had. And I had just lost my publishing deal, and I was back to waiting tables, and we got together, and Alan had this idea that he'd heard in a sermon that he heard the preacher say, sometimes you catch it by the handle in life, and sometimes you catch it by the blade. And Alan brought that idea in, and we kind of banged our head against the wall for about four co-writes, trying to just get the feel and what the hook of the song should be, and just how we were going to frame it and present it. And I think it was the third round of a 4 hour the third co-write of 4 hours long before I had to go wait tables. I would go to my rights and then go to work every night, rush off to it. And on that third one, I think we got the hook to be more of a heartbreak song, an approach where you caught it by the handle and I caught it by the blade. And as soon as we had felt like we nailed the hook, the song just came pouring out in that very last co-write. So it took about 16 hours to write that song, the whole process all the way around. And it was originally recorded by Love and Theft in country music, and then that recording never came out. And then Ashley Monroe recorded it and called Miranda Lambert to sing the backgrounds with her, and Vince Gill produced it and played guitar on it, and that ended up being the title track of Ashley Monroe's record called The Blade. And that was just such a huge moment in my career, and that was what I always say was the song that turned me from a waitress into a Grammy nominated waitress at the time. And then a few years later, Ronnie Dunn of Brooks and Dunn um cut it on his most recent solo record, which was cool because that was my second cut by Ronnie Dunn. He gave me the first cut of my career, and then he also cut this song, which was really cool. Um, to get another outside cut with Ronnie because he is an incredible songwriter, and and then I released the song. I actually got to perform it live on national television. Shania Twain called me to be on this reality music show that she had done a few years back, so that was really incredible. It just had opened so many doors, um, and then most recently, my buddy Jake Hoot, who, like I mentioned, he and Kelly Clarkson released a duet that we'd written together. Jake started singing harmonies with me when I'd sing the Blade live, whenever he would join me in shows of mine, and the audience reaction was just so incredible that Jake and I decided to record it. And the crazy part of the story is we started recording it, and then Jake finds out that he's going back on The Voice for this All Stars episode, and so that was really cool. We were like, oh gosh, well this is great timing. Like our song's gonna come out, Jake's gonna be on The Voice again, and right around then too, I had run into Vince Gill at an awards show, and see him in the audience, and he he talked to me and he goes, "Man, The Blade is one of my favorite songs, favorite country songs of all time," and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know what to do with that." I had to go sit back down in my chair and after hearing that, and, um, of course, that stuck with me, and when Jake and I were talking about, what is our dream for this song? And Jake plays the Grand Ole Opry a lot. They absolutely love him there, as they should. And Jake was like, "Well, maybe I can bring you up and we can do the song on the Opry, coming up. I think they're gonna have me on, and why don't I pitch, that we do our song and like debut it?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, like, wouldn't it be so incredible if Vince Gill would join us?" I mean, he just told me it's one of his favorite songs, and he did produce the first version. So gosh, what if he what if that could happen? And so I got the most courage I've ever had in my entire life, and I called around to get Vince Gill's new manager's phone number, and I cold called his manager. And I said, because his manager used to be a publisher here in town and just was, always in the music business. And so I was like, "Hi, I don't know if you remember me, but you were there when I saw Vince recently at that award show and you guys were hanging out. Like, do you remember that?" And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, I remember you talking to him." And I was like, "Okay, I have a wild idea. Jake is pitching this idea to the Opry that he and I could debut our song because it will have just come out. Um, and he's trying to see if, they'll have us on to do that. And if that can work out, would Vince ever want to sing it with us, like, just as a full circle moment because he did produce the original version and this is the new version, and he told me he loved it so much, I thought I'd just ask." And his manager goes, "Yeah, let me ask him." And so he hangs up, he calls me back a couple days later and he goes, "Yeah, he'll do it." I was like, "Wait, what?" And this is like the biggest chance I've ever taken. I just cold calling people's managers. And he said, "Yeah, Vince will do it. Like if you guys can get booked on the same night, yeah, totally." So Jake goes back to the Opry and he says, "Yeah, Vince would sing it with us if all the logistics could work out." And it worked out. And I tell you, like, up until we're walking on stage with Vince, I couldn't believe it was gonna happen. Like I was trying to like manage my expectations. Even a week before, I'm like, "Yeah, they're probably gonna call and say, no, 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 you got it all wrong." But it was absolutely one of the best moments of my life when, Jake is on stage playing his set, and I know he's getting ready to call Vince and I to come out and do the song, and I'm standing side stage with Vince Gill, and he's standing next to me, and I'm getting ready to walk out on the Opry stage for the first time, and he looks at me and he goes, "You're gonna do great, kid." And it was just like, "What?" And I walk out there, and then we call Vince out, and what a beautiful moment, like to look over and see Jake, like, shining and being such he's such an incredible, generous friend of mine, and for him to just share, such a big moment in his career, winning on The Voice again, all that stuff, and the fact that he, just wanted to do have this moment happen, and his set was really really generous, and he's just such a dear friend. And then Jake and I both looking over and seeing Vince playing guitar with us, I was like, I actually cannot look over there, and it was so surreal, and such a full circle moment, and it's just proof that like anything could happen. and it was such a lesson for me that, like, gosh, there are things in my career that I've started to go, "Oh, well, maybe that's not going to happen anymore," or it's just like too late, these stupid rules and ideas that we tell ourselves, kind of conforming to the rules of the world. And that moment really taught me that do not ever doubt what could happen, because it's all possible. Because if this is happening right now, like, one of my absolute heroes is singing my current single with me on the Grand Ole Opry, like, then anything can happen. And so I've just had this renewed inspiration, and this I've just been reminded of why I came here, and that anything is possible. And I just have to believe it can happen. And so I've just my they've really kicked me around, and I think we all get beat up in the music business in one way or another, and I certainly have had my share of disappointments, but that was a big one that just renewed my faith in the fact that dreams are never expire. So,
Amazing, beautiful story, full circle in the circle. Couldn't have done it any better.
yeah. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I absolutely love chatting with you. Before we go, I would love for you to share any advice with any songwriters listening. You shared so much already, but just to wrap up, what's one more piece of advice?
Yeah, I would say really kind of tune out whatever the most trendy, you know, thing that's happening, and really focus in on what your superpower is and what it is that you love to do and that you do best. Like, what is it, if you sit down, to write, what is something that makes you excited and that really opens you up and lights you up? I would focus on that and doing that and making that the very best it could be, because I'll just say I kind of learned that the hard way. It's very easy to kind of go with the tide and be like, okay, this is the cool thing now. Okay, so I need to be doing this. Okay, this is the cool thing over here. And I would just say, like, really learn what your voice is in your own unique brand of storytelling, and stick with that. Because if you really make that the best it can be, um, people will learn that that's your signature thing, and it will stand out and it will take you to where you're supposed to go. And I think if you're kind of chasing the latest and greatest fads, it just takes a lot longer. And the minute in my career that I started focusing on what I did best and what was resonating in my heart, anytime I would pick up a guitar, that's when everything changed. And it was, by the way, against all odds. Like, my thing is very intense, emotional, um, a lot of sad songs, getting outside songs, cut all the things that they tell you, oh, that's never going to happen, stay away from sad song, don't do this, that's never going to get, this and that. And everything that they told me I shouldn't do, when I started doing that is when all my success came flooding in. And that's kind of what has become my calling card. So I would just say, really, really stay in touch with who you are and commit to it, and don't let anybody don't let anybody change that, or tell you to shy away from that.
Incredible. You're such an inspiration, such an honor chatting with you. Can you please share with everybody where they can connect with you online and catch you at future shows?
Sure. Yeah. A central place you can go is my website, which is officialjamiefloyd.com. All the shows, upcoming shows are there, all the latest news, and obviously links where you can listen to all the music. And then Instagram is another good place. And I'm just Jamie Floyd on Instagram. I'd love to connect.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it was great to chat with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Jamie Floyd. And of course, until next time, stay
Stay right
right
on
on
track.
track.